Hi everyone, I hope y'all have been doing well, and I hope all of the moms who are watching this are having a fantastic Mother's Day. This year, I decided to celebrate Mother's Day by making a video explaining the story behind the relationship that I have with my mother. Anyone who knows me or follows me on social media knows that my mother and I are incredibly close now. However, there have been a lot of interesting little twists and turns in the road to get to where we are now. And I felt like it was worth sharing with everyone. Starting out in my early childhood, we were incredibly close. However, during my teen years, we actually lost quite a bit of time. My mother was diagnosed with a condition called Meniere's disorder, which is an inner ear disease that affects balance, causes headaches, and can cause lack of hearing. During that time, it was a relatively new condition, so the ways of treating it were not fully developed yet. And because of that, the doctors just tossed a lot of different medications at her, and it resulted in her ending up in a pseudo-catatonic state. At the time, my mother was still married to her ex-husband, my ex-stepfather, and he was a textbook narcissist. He saw this catatonic state that my mother was in as a golden opportunity to manipulate me against her. And the way he did it was he made up all these different stories and lies about my mother in order to build resentment and anger for me against her. And it worked for quite some time until I got into my late teens, early 20s, and I started to see a lot of his lies unfold, and I started to wake up a lot to the manipulation. Around that same time, my mother had quit nearly all of the medicine she was on, and she had made the decision that she was just gonna tough it out. And by then she had gained enough of her facilities back again for her and I to start talking. And I finally decided that I wanted to hear out her side of the story. We started sharing notes, and I finally decided to confront her about one of the bigger lies that he had told me. And that was that I was not his son, that I was allegedly the son of another man from my hometown that my mother supposedly had an affair with. When I asked her that question, her jaw hit the floor, and after a couple minutes of having to pick the pieces of her brain back up, she told me that I was not his child, but the affair was a lie. And at that point, I had all this resentment and this anger toward her. I didn't know who or what to believe, and I told her, well, then where do I come from? So she brought me some paperwork, and she explained to me that I was the product of an anonymous donor, that her and my ex-stepfather, her ex-husband, had went to a clinic and knowingly bought donor sperm to have a kid with, and the doctor told them to just raise me under the guise that I was my mother's husband at the time's child, and that was the agreement. So at that point I realized that he had taken that and used that as an angle to put me against my mother. After some time, it took me a while to really just, I guess you could say, reach reality again, for lack of better terms. My mother and I talked about it a little bit more, and I was angry at her for lying to me, but at the same time, I felt better about how I'd been feeling toward her, because I realized that yes, she did lie to me, but she had not lied to me in the same fashion that my ex-stepfather did, as far as being manipulative. She did it out of a place of ignorance and because of just not knowing back then. And so I decided to forgive her for that. And I felt like I was at a fork in the road. I could have went two different ways. I could have either resented her even more like I had been doing, which was not working very well, or I could take a new angle and try to be constructive with it. So I told her, I forgive you. I cleared all of the resentment I had in my heart for her, and I told her, let's start over fresh. I will make another video discussing my donor conception and the path to finding my father. However, this is Mother's Day, so let's get back to Mother. Not long after that, she divorced my ex-stepfather, and she moved in with my grandmother. Spent a lot of time catching up, bonding again with her. For those of y'all that are from Price, Texas, y'all know good old Meemaw. Got to really have some good times for the last 5, 6, 7 years of her life. And then when I moved out to West Texas to start up my own business, my mother moved out there with me. Since then, we have caught up on all the lost years. My mother even started training jiu-jitsu with me at the ripe old age of 54, and she is now a blue belt and even assists me whenever I'm coaching. Despite having lived through so much mental, physical, emotional abuse and trauma, my mother still continues to inspire me in different ways. Many of you probably do not know because she never gives herself enough credit, but my mother is a better fisher, carpenter, and gardener than most men are. Nearing 60 years old, she's a better tennis player than I will ever be, and she has a professional level of photography. My mother taught me to always think outside the box and never be afraid to challenge others or challenge society. During the many years that she wished to have a child, she managed to help be a mother figure to many other kids before me. And after she had me, she's managed to even guide along plenty more young people afterwards. We've both been through a lot, and she is definitely a handful, but I'm blessed to be her son. I guess the short way of putting it is she might be my mother, but it's almost like we have more of a father-son relationship than a mother-son relationship, given the fact that she lives up to every obnoxious dad stereotype. But anyway, happy Mother's Day, Mother. And actually, while I'm at it, if there are any attractive 60-some-odd-year-old men who enjoy talking about MMA, fishing, and maybe camping and photography, I am currently hiring for the position of stepfather again. You have my social media here. I'm within an arm's reach. By no means am I trying to shoo her out the door or marry her off immediately, but she's more than available. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to discuss any of this content any further, my contact information is always listed in the video's description. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.